the modern world, the use of espionage by the state is well known. But what about ancient India? Was espionage used as a tool in diplomacy and politics by ancient Indian states too? In this video, we will try to answer this question. If we start our inquiry from the Vedic period, we have some reference to show that the Vedic kings employed spies. In the Vedic literature, the term that appears most often for spies is spasha. And we are told that the Rajan of the Vedic period employed these spies to keep an eye on the public behavior. If we move to the epics, we have far greater information about the functioning of the espionage system. In both Ramayana and Mahabharata, the spies are described as the eyes of the king. In later text, this analogy has been repeated all of the times. The Udyog Parvan of Mahabharata sums up this analogy and the whole concept brilliantly in a passage which goes like this. Cows see by smell, priest by knowledge, king by spies, and other men through eyes. A similar passage appears in Garud Puran where we are told a blind prince may see through the eyes of his spies, but an ignorant king is always in the dark. Perhaps that is why in the Vishnu Dharmottar Puran the king is called Charchakshu, which means one who sees by means of spies. Although in Ramayana spies are mentioned, but Mahabharata provides us an elaborate account about the functioning of the espionage system. How important these spies were can be seen from the fact that in Shanti Parvan, spies are described as one of the 8 limbs of the army. In both Ramayana and Mahabharata, spies are mostly called Chara. And it appears that Mahabharata refers to 2 different kinds of spies. Vahishcharaha, those spies who went to other states to gather information. Antascharaha, those who worked inside the state. Even in Panini's Ashtadhyayi, we find mention of spies. Panini uses the word Upanishad to refer to the secret means employed by the espionage office. Of all these ancient texts, there is one where the description is most detailed. I am sure you know which text I am talking about. This is Kautilya's Arthashastra. For Kautilya, spies played a critical role in the functioning of the state, and he broadly classifies these spies into 2 categories: stationary spies and wandering spies. Kautilya also tells us that the spy masters who headed these different groups had their own agents and their own mechanisms of operation. He also makes it clear that one group should not have any information about the other group of spies. Through this, Kautilya not only ensured that these spies could not collectively challenge the state, but he also ensured that even if a group of spies was caught by the enemy, the whole espionage system would not crumble. If you look at the functioning of these 2 categories of spies, Kautilya tells us that the stationary spies were tasked to look after the various departments of the state. The stationary spies were in turn subdivided into 5 heads based on the functions they were assigned. Kautilya also makes sure that even though these spies are described as stationary, there were times when they were tasked to report on external affairs. If we move to wandering spies, they are subdivided into 4 categories by Kautilya. Satrina, spies whose main job was to gather information. These were most often orphan who were fed by the state, and the state also ensured their training. The task of Satrina spies were not only to gather information, they also had to spread propaganda among the masses in praise of the king. The second type of spies was Tikshana. These were spies whose main job was assassination. Kautilya writes that these spies are brave, have given up all thought of personal safety, and would fight for the sake of money, an elephant, or a wild animal. The third type of spies were Rashadah. These were poison givers, and Kautilya describes them as not showing affection for their kinsmen and being cruel and indolent. The fourth type of spies were Parivrajika. These were wandering nuns and were mostly Brahmins. They adopted this profession because they were poor and sometimes widowed, and they wanted to secure a livelihood. Kautilya recommends that since these wandering nuns are respected by the king and higher officials, they should enter the palace and residence of higher officials to gather information. This same type of division between wandering and stationary spies are also mentioned in Kamandak's Nitisar, but the terminology he has used is somewhat different from Kautilya's Arthashastra. Even in Dharmashastras, we find that spies are mentioned. In general, spies were drawn from all the sections of the society. However, it was believed that the Brahmins were most trustful and worthy spies. This was particularly because of the fact that even if a Brahmin spy was caught by the authorities, they couldn't harm him, because punishing a Brahmin was considered as the highest sin by various Dharmashastras, which cannot be washed away by any atonement. Kautilya too prefers Brahmins as spies mainly because of this attribute. In fact, in Mudrakshas, there is a reference of a Brahmin spy named Indu Sharman whom Chanakya appointed. In this story, Indu Sharman disguised himself as a Jain monk. There is another Brahmin figure in ancient Indian literature who played an important role in the destruction of an ancient Indian republic. His work was similar to that of a spy. I am here talking about Varshakar or Vassakara, as he is known as in Pali literature. As we all know, Varshakar or Vassakara was the minister of Ajatashatru, the Magadhan king, and he played an important role in the destruction of the Vriji Republic. In these ancient texts, there is also some evidence about the existence of codes or sign languages that were used by spies to convey information. These codes or sign languages were called Gudulek. In fact, Mudrakshas mentions a secret script that was used by spies. Having discussed these different aspects about the ancient espionage system, it is also important to understand the functions of the spies in ancient Indian society. So the first and the foremost function was the security of the state, and it could be achieved through three different ways. First, by destroying enemies' espionage system. Second, by sowing the seeds of dissension among the enemy's officers. Third, by creating fear among enemy's forces. Apart from this, spies were also used to test the loyalty and character of the officers that were employed by the state. Kautilya recommends that only those officers that were examined through this process should be appointed by the king. Kautilya also recommends that these spies should be used to know about the opinion of the subjects and their condition. The knowledge of public behavior was also considered an important function of spies. These spies were tasked to gather information about what the subjects think about kings, and this was done mainly by listening to the multitude debates that took place in public places. By listening to these debates and conversations in public as well as in private, these spies were expected to report on any rumor or any signs of public discontent. There are also some evidence to show that spies in ancient India also performed some policing duties as well. But it was not like all of the policing duties were left to the spies. If you want to know about how policing was done in ancient India, do watch this video where I have covered this topic in detail. If you like this channel, do subscribe. Thank you for watching.